Hey guys, so this is the kit explanation for Charon. I've done this before, but I was just reading out the kit from the translation. But as I was reading it again, I felt like it's a little bit difficult to actually understand if you just read what the skill does, what the insight do. So what I did here in this video is I explained more in terms of the gameplay and some of the things that you need to pay attention to in order to, make the best out of his kit. And of course, in this video, I will also answer if you should pull for Charon. So first of all, Pulsing Field. With Charon in the party, you will alter how Pulsing Field works in the sense that instead of having stage 1, 2, and 3, now you directly skip stage 2 and you will upgrade from stage 1 directly to stage 3. However, the Dynamo that is required to upgrade stage 1 increases from 50 to 90. So you need 90 Dynamo, but you instantly get stage 2. Previously, it is 50, 70. So total is 120 Dynamo required. Now it's just 90. And Charon himself are able to contribute up to 20 Dynamo per round. So if you have some other units, very likely that you will charge to level 3 in just 2 rounds. And with 2 rounds charging the field, 2 more rounds where the field is at level 3. So technically his rotation is 4 rounds. However, if you have the Intellect Myth Manifest in Reveries, his rotation can be cut short by 1 round into 3 round rotation due to the additional Dynamo that the Myth Manifest can provide to the team, which allowed them to infuse more Dynamo into the Pulsing Field. So apart from speeding up the Pulsing Field leveling, Charon's main role is actually a support unit, but his damage is pretty good, so I would say he's more like a sub DPS. And this is the buff that he provides, up to 30 plus 20% crit rate, and which the additional 20% is based on a stack buff that he have, which is known as Consternation. Okay, but I will talk about Consternation in a moment. So what we know is that it provides 30% plus 20% per stack of Consternation, and which means you need to have at least 4 stack of Consternation to make the most out of his kit. And once you have 4 stack and above of Consternation, then he will also provide 80% excess crit rate converted to crit damage. For debuff, it is 20 base and then 20% more. Similarly, is based on 5% per Consternation of crit defense down, which means when you crit, you will do more damage. It's kind of like crit damage, but it's a debuff. And additional 30% damage taken if Consternation is above 4 stacks. One important thing to highlight here is that this debuff is applied automatically when an enemy enters the field. So if you enter at round 1, all the enemy will have fear of death, which is the name of the debuff. And if let's say one enemy die and another one respawn, instantly that enemy that respawn will also receive fear of death. Both the buff and debuff is actually rather short in duration, which is just 2 rounds. But if Charon is in channel state, like he's in channeling status, at the end of the round, he will extend all of the buff and debuff by 1 round. So which means if you are able to sustain and maintain in his channeling status, your buff and debuff will never end. Which means the best of all is that you do not need to use S1 and S2 actively anymore once you are in Charon's channeling status. But how do we enter his channel status? Simply by using his ultimate. So his ultimate will put him into a channel status, and once in his channel status, he will also do an extra action at the end of the round, and consume Shockwave. If Shockwave is fully depleted, the channel ends. So which means if you want to have a perpetual channel, like it's going to be active all the time, you need to have sufficient Shockwave. But fortunately, if you are doing the right rotation, he will not run out of Shockwaves. So which means his channel will be forever. To gain Shockwave, there is a few ways, which is why I say his kit is a bit confusing if you read it that way, because here they mention a bit about Shockwave, there they mention a bit about Shockwave, so it's quite confusing. So here I compiled it all. First of all, if you use his S1 and S2, you get 20 Shockwave. If any of your party member gain an excess Moxie, which means like if you have 5 Moxie and you still use an incantation, so that Moxie will be excess, it will be converted into 20 Shockwave as well. Excess Dynamo, each will be 1 Shockwave. So for example, if like you are already in Pulsing Field level 3, and all the Dynamo infused during that time will be considered as excess. So let's say if you use Auric Ultimate, that will be 30 Dynamo, but instead it will go to Charon as 30 Shockwaves. So he will have a bunch of Shockwave once you enter Pulsing Field level 3. And when you use his ultimate, whatever S1 and S2 that you have on your spell docs, all of it will be consumed and will be converted to more Shockwave. Rank 1, you get 20. If it's rank 2, you get 30. Rank 3, you get 50. Usually, you don't have to bother much about this. Just let it naturally happen. And lastly, he starts with 50 Shockwaves. So here I want to explain a bit about his rotation and how he's getting Shockwave. So this is, I'm assuming that he is in the Dynamo team. Usually in round 1, you will spend AP on Auric, so you won't use any AP on Charon. So round 1, he does nothing. So he starts with 50 Shockwave, he will have 50 Shockwave by round 2. And in round 2, you use S1, both of his skill. S1, S2, one of it will overflow in terms of Moxie. So he will get up to 60 Shockwave. Plus the 50 that he already have, now he have 110 Shockwave. At this point, you will not consume any Shockwave because he is not in his channeling status yet, and he will not do the extra action at the end of the round. And now at round 3, Pulsing Field is at level 3. So all Dynamo will turn into Shockwave. So you use his ultimate this round. It will then consume, assuming that you have S1 and S2 in the spell dock, he will consume both of it and he will get 40 Shockwave. And with all the Dynamo, the extra one, you can get even up to 100 plus Shockwaves. So in that case, he will end the round with about 200 plus Shockwave, and then he will trigger his extra action. However, the first time he triggers his extra action after you uses his ultimate, he will not consume any Shockwave. It will be 0 Shockwave consumed. However, in the subsequent round, then he will consume 50, in the next round 100, and then the round after that 150. But since his rotation is 4 rounds, so you are expected that one round will be 0, the other round will be 50, 100, 150, and then you use his ultimate and reset back to 0. Okay, this is considering 4 round rotation. So if you look into the requirement of Shockwave to sustain over these 4 rounds, you need about 300 Shockwaves. And continue back the rotation in round 4, again all Dynamo will infuse and turn into Shockwave. You will be able to get 100 plus Shockwave as well. So generally speaking, usually during the 2 rounds where you are charging the Pulsing Field, you will not be able to generate a lot of Shockwave. So let's say you get about 40 plus Shockwave. And the round when you hit Pulsing Field level 3, you will also use Auric Ultimate during that time. You can even get up to 150 Shockwave. Plus the last round, it will be about 100. So when you add it all together, definitely you are able to get enough. Up to 300 Shockwave in 4 rounds. So once we have understand that, now let's go back. Previously, I mentioned about his buff and debuff, and then you need 4 stack of Consternation. So we want to know how easy is it now to actually obtain this 4 stack of Consternation. every 40 Shockwave that Charon gets, he will also get 1 stack of Consternation. Consternation duration is 4 rounds, which is why I say his rotation is 4 rounds. So we must ensure that within this 4 round, we can maintain at least 4 stack of Consternation. He start off with 1 Consternation because at the start of battle, he get 50 stack of Shockwave, so that is more than 40, so he get 1 Consternation. And based on the rotation that I recommended, in round 2, you will use S1 and S2, that's 40 stacks of Shockwave, so that's another 1 Consternation. He will get the overflowed one. By the time you hit Pulsing Field level 3, and then you start getting more excess Dynamos, Moxies, and all those things, you can easily reach at least 4 Consternation above. So typically, a whole cycle, you will be able to maintain about 6, 7, sometimes 8 stack of Consternation. So no problem maintaining it at 4, okay? So now we know about his general kit, about Shockwave, Consternation, his channel. Now we want to talk a little bit about Dynamo and Moxie. Okay, he is a Dynamo character, so you want him to be able to inject Dynamo into the field, but the only way for him to gain Dynamo is from Shockwave. And again, remember, he only can infuse up to 20 Dynamo per round. So as long as you can get 20 Dynamo every single round, you will be fine. Okay? And that translates to you need about 100 Shockwave, because every fry Shockwave is 1 Dynamo. 100 Shockwave, 20 Dynamo. And then he infused 20 Dynamo. You can easily maintain over 100 Shockwave, especially after a few rounds of rotation, like 1 to 4, then 5 to 8, and then 9 to 12. Usually you will already have more, because his Shockwave will always be slightly in excess, so it will just keep accumulating a little bit more as you prolong, as long as you are able to maintain the rotation, right? So again, no issue on Dynamo. How about Moxie? For his Moxie, when he uses his ultimate, he get 1 Moxie. And if he's in channel status, at the end of the round, he get another Moxie. So naturally, within that 4 round rotation, you will get back his ultimate, right? Ultimate, 2 Moxie. Remaining 3 rounds, 3 Moxie. That's 5 Moxie. You will get back his ultimate. But one thing I want to note is that when Pulsing Field hits level 3, then Charon will get 1 chance to use his ultimate for free. So his ultimate will not cost any AP. Okay, only for 1 time. If you get his ultimate earlier, let's say after you finish the whole rotation, the Pulsing Field has reset back to 1, and then you get his ultimate early. If you use it this time, the ultimate will cost 1 AP. But let's say if you save that ultimate, you don't use it until Pulsing Field reach level 3, then you can use the ultimate for free. So what if the situation that you have used the ultimate earlier before Pulsing Field level 3, and then you enter Pulsing Field level 3, if later you get back his ultimate somewhere in Pulsing Field level 1 where it resetted back, the ultimate will still be free because you will have 1 chance. You can use that chance anytime. And not only for himself, he will also do this for the character in front of him. So usually I like to put Auric in front of him, and that's because every time Pulsing Field hits level 3, Auric will gain 3 Moxie and he will get his ultimate. So in that case, you can use both ultimate for free. Alright, so now we know about his rotation, his Dynamo, all those things. Now let's talk about his damage. So, extra action. His damage is honestly not low, and that's because it has a lot of buff, boosts, and the multiplier is not bad as well. Okay, first of all, we need to understand one more thing about Consternation. With every stack of Consternation that Charon have, he have 5% penetration rate. So if you have 10 stack of Consternation, you can get up to 50% penetration rate. The follow-up attack or the extra action that he does at the end of the round while he's channeling, the base damage is 150% mental damage with 60% ultimate might. Okay? For every Consternation that you have, the damage increases by 50. For example, if you have 100, then you will have additional 500% mental damage done on the extra action, with an additional of 10% ultimate might, up to 100%. So averagely, as I mentioned, you can get about 6 to 7 stacks of Consternation, especially during Pulsing Field level 3. Usually it's slightly lower when Pulsing Field is at level 1. Yeah, so let's say by average, at 7 stacks, and now your Pulsing Field is at level 3, and Auric is also providing a lot of ultimate might to the entire party, he will hit very hard. At 7 stack, we are looking at 500% mental damage with 130% ultimate might and 35% penetration. If you are able to max out Consternation, that is 650% mental damage, 160% ultimate might, and 50% penetration. So the question is, how do you hit 10 stacks? Normal gameplay outside of Reverie is actually quite difficult, but if you are in Reverie and you are using the Myth Manifest, the intellect one, the robot, then it's quite likely that you will be able to hit 10 stacks of Consternation. But to be honest, I haven't really tried out or tested out, but yeah, you should be able to hit it. Or at least very close to 10 stack. 9 stack maybe, 10 stack, yeah. And now if that's not enough, he has another source of damage, and that's Genesis damage. So if the enemy is inflicted with his debuff, and then their HP drop below 20%, they will instantly receive 99,999 Genesis damage. And that's huge. Sometimes it's 9,999, but I am not 100% sure. I will have to test this out because I do notice that sometimes it does end up with 9999 instead of 5 nines. But don't quote me on this yet. Let me test it out first and then I'll update you. But whatever the case is, this mechanic is really good for raid, because in raid the boss doesn't die, and the boss has about 100,000 HP. So let's say once it hits below 20%, you just use any form of attack. Let's say you are just doing 1 damage, right? It hits the boss, it triggers the 99,999 Genesis damage, and then the boss will die, and then it will refresh back, and then now you attack it again, then it will trigger the Genesis damage again. So let's say if you have Impromptu, and Impromptu is doing very low damage when you hit 20% of boss HP, and then Impromptu is going to hit it multiple times. Each time Impromptu hit it, it will deal 100,000 damage. Genesis from Charon. Okay, so again and again and again, which makes it very interesting to do and to play in raid. So here overall, I'm recommending the rotation with the, what team is this? The Dynamo team, right? So Lucy, Auric, Ezra, and Charon himself. So what you want to do here is that at round 1, you use Ezra's shield. Okay, I think his shield is S2. If it's a mistaken, I apologize, but I'm referring to his shield. So Ezra used his shield, and then now he has 20 Dynamo. Auric used S1 and S2 to enter his channel status, and then Lucy used S1 or S2, whichever the one that you choose to enhance. Now at round 2, Charon uses S1 and S2 to make sure everyone is buff up, to renew all the debuff on the enemy, because in next round he will get his ultimate. So you want to use S1 and S2, and he will get more Shockwave as well. Then Lucy now use both S1 and S2, which at this point both should already be enhanced. So now Pulsing Field will enter level 3, Auric will gain 3 Moxie and he will get his ultimate, Charon will also get his ultimate, so use both of it. And both will be free because Charon is in front, Auric is in front of Charon. And then with the 4 AP, 2 on Lucy, 2 on Ezra. At round 4, again, you use Lucy's ultimate, and then Lucy's S1 or S2. I didn't write it there. but there's one more AP left for round 4. You use it on Lucy's S1 or S2, and then 2 more AP you give it to Ezra. Now Ezra should also have 5 Moxie, so that when Pulsing Field is reset back to level 1, you get Ezra's ultimate, and now you use Ezra ultimate to regain his shield. Okay, so it's quite important that you do this. Subsequently, there is no fixed rotation anymore because, first of all, Charon, you don't need to allocate any AP for him anymore. So it's basically between Auric, Ezra, and Lucy. And sometimes Ezra and Lucy, you get more of the incantation, then you use it, or sometimes you get less because when you reset incantation as well, you may not get the one that you want, but that's fine, okay? But anyway, what you want to do after the first round, where Pulsing Field level 3 is reset back to 1, for Charon, you don't need to use any more incantation. Just make sure you use his ultimate once Pulsing Field hit level 3. And then the ultimate will be free as well. For Auric, you use S1 and S2 when Pulsing Field reset back to level 1, and then use his ultimate when Pulsing Field reach level 3. So basically in that 4 rounds, you just have to allocate 2 AP for Auric because the ultimate is free due to Charon. So with all the remaining AP, for Ezra's case, you just need to give him sufficient AP in order for him to get his ultimate in that 4 rounds. So which means you need to give him at least about 1 or sometimes 2 AP per round. So when Pulsing Field reset, you use his ultimate. Okay, in between that, preferably you want to use his shield, but if you don't have it, it's fine. Just use his debuff. And whatever AP you have left, then you use that all on Lucy. Okay, so for the portrait, here it says P1, it increases the buff. Okay, so it will buff the party even more. So I think that's pretty okay. But it's not like it's going to change the rotation. So it's also okay if you don't have it. P2, when entering battle, you get more stack of Dynamo. And then you get more Shockwave. But again, and you also get more Moxie. So he can start directly with his ultimate. But still you have to use S1 to apply buff. And then you use ultimate. So in a way, to be honest with you, if you follow the rotation that I recommend earlier, it doesn't really quite make a difference if you have P1 or P2. P2 definitely you'll feel a bit more comfortable, but it's not really changing the entire rotation that much. So it's okay if you don't have it. Then here you have P3, where the mental damage for Day of Remorse, which is his follow-up attack or the extra action, and then the ultimate enhancement multiplier increase to 70%. So more damage. And then at level 4, P4, the crit defense decrease from fear of death increases. So better debuff, which is okay. And then P5, it further increased the extra actions damage. So overall, I really think that if you just get P0 Charon, you should be fine. Okay? It will feel pretty comfortable once you get the ball rolling. For his Psychube, I would still recommend for you to just use back his Psychube, although he definitely should be able to use Flutter Page Psychube. Yeah, but because he's somewhat like a support unit, and his Psychube does provide more crit damage to the entire party, so I would definitely want to use this one as well. Okay, so crit rate up to 16% at level 60. And for the Psychube upgrade amplification at level 1, it is 8% damage dealt while he's channeling. And for every Dynamo that is transferred to the Pulsing Field, it can stack up to 3 times. The entire ally will get crit damage plus 4%, so up to 12%. If it's at level 5, then damage dealt is 16%. And crit damage total is 24%. So finally, the most important question, should you pull? Yes, you should pull. Auric is free. I hope you have him. If you are a new player that you start after Auric, then unfortunately, but Auric is just last patch, right? So unless you start this patch, then you don't have him. If you start last patch, you definitely have Auric. Auric and Charon is such a crazy duo. They provide a lot of ultimate might to the entire party with all the damage taken, crit damage, crit, you know, all those things. And your entire team will be hitting so hard. So they become a very strong duo to support ultimate DPS. And even themselves can become a DPS when you put them together. So I would say definitely invest in Charon just to have this, just to have an access to this. And of course, if you are building Dynamo team, there is just no reason for you to skip Charon. He is one of the core unit. And later, if you decided that you want to go for Corvus, then it's even better. Because Corvus has something to do with mental damage and Charon provide that. So Charon is the core member for Corvus Dynamo team. Alright, so that's all for this video. A very long explanation for Charon, but I hope you are able to understand his kit now. And yeah, let's wait a few more days and we will be able to pull for him. So thank you very much for watching and have a good day.